All right, welcome back to Just Boxing Live. We are here at Sweet Science Boxing Gym in Hawthorne, California. On the phone, I have my co-host, as always, making his way back from fights yesterday evening, lead writer of Supreme Boxing, Anthony Stacks Saldana. Can you hear me, Stacks?
I can hear you, man. What's going on, guys?
Not much. How you doing, brother?
Good, man.
To my right, I have returning for, man, you're like a regular now. What is this? Is this 4?
4 or 5.
4 or 5 times?
Like yeah.
You can find him on Instagram at El Mejia Photography. Luis Mejia. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, man? How you guys doing?
We're doing good. And to my left, I have Jose Gallo Gomez, undefeated professional. What's happening, man?
Pretty good.
Welcome to Just Boxing Live. Thanks for coming down, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Very welcome. Now, I know we have an action-packed evening of fights to discuss. Yesterday, we had fights on PBC. We had fights on ESPN. We had fights on DAZN. But I'm guessing you didn't check much of those out because from what I hear of you, you actually think boxing's a little bit boring, don't you?
To watch it, yeah. It gets me a little sleepy.
It gets you a little sleepy?
Yeah.
You get tired from watching
Yeah.
it? I heard you say in an interview once that you can't help but fall asleep when you watch boxing.
Yeah, after a while, it starts getting me sleepy. And unless the fight is really good, then, yeah, I stay up. But if it is like a all right fight, then, yeah, I start yawning and maybe sometimes leave.
Do you study tapes of your opponent?
Yeah, of course. That's important, you know. You have
They
to.
don't put you to sleep, though?
No, because that's someone you're going to face in the future, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys for jumping on the live chat. Please be sure to share this out to your respective pages. Give me a like. Stacks, give me a couple shares if you don't mind. All right.
Of course, man. Of course.
You have a fight coming up. You're going to be on the Deontay Wilder undercard.
Correct.
And you're managed by Leo Santa Cruz, correct?
Yes.
Because Leo Santa Cruz will be on that card, and you'll be on that card as well.
Yes.
Yes. And do you know who your opponent is already?
Yeah, I do. His name is Daniel Placeres.
Okay.
He's 8-2-1.
8-2-1?
Yeah.
And have you known for a while, like have you been able to study any tape on Daniel or anything like that?
I think he had just a recent fight, maybe like 4 months ago. Yeah, I've seen that fight, and I seen that he's a southpaw.
And you've seen that he's a southpaw. Now, we talked about this a little bit beforehand. You have about 60 amateur fights? Is that
around
true?
there, yeah.
Yeah. So 60 amateur fights. So you've no doubt seen southpaws in the amateurs.
Yeah.
But have you seen southpaws as a professional yet?
Not yet. This would be my first southpaw fighter.
Does that have any concern? Are there any differences that you expect to implement in your game as a result of having a southpaw here?
I mean, not really, because I can fight orthodox and southpaw. But, yeah, of course, you do take it to consideration because this is my first time fighting a southpaw. And but like I said, I can fight southpaw, and in my sparrings, I'm sparring with southpaws.
You're sparring with southpaws, including the likes of Lomachenko, who himself is a
southpaw.
southpaw.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
You actually have a pretty impressive sparring resume, which I have some names here, but I know obviously you sparred with Leo, you sparred with Lomachenko, you sparred with Ryan Garcia, you sparred with Cuellar. I'm probably missing some people or leaving some people out.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the experience that's brought to your game, or how do you feel that that's benefited you as a fighter?
It's like they say, you know, iron sharpens iron, and you learn from everybody that you, especially these world champions, you know, that they're such great fighters. They have a lot of talent, and me coming in as a new person in the pro, it has helped me a lot. You know, you learn a little from every fighter you spar. And just like they learn from you, you learn from them.
He's actually sparred with JoJo, too.
JoJo, yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot about that one. Yeah. I knew I left someone off. And so you sparred with some left hammer. Oh, jeez. I'm struggling today.
Hammers is true, yeah.
Plus, there's something going on with my voice all of a sudden. I sound like I have a cold.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So you've sparred some left-handers. I'm guessing that you are I know that you're utilizing strength and conditioning at this point as part of your routine, which is new to this camp.
Yeah.
But you feel like it's made a difference to you already.
Yes, of course. Andy has done a real great job with me throughout this camp, with me, Leo, and some couple of fighters that will be fighting on the undercard. And yeah, of course, it has helped me a lot, and I feel a little stronger. I feel a little different, you know, from when I used to not go to the strength conditioning. It has helped me a lot.
One of the things that you go ahead. What was that, Stax?
This is Stax, man. Hey, question for you. So I met you a long time ago, man. Actually, I think your first professional fight, 2016, you were fighting a lot, but now this is only your third fight in the last 3 years. What's going on, man? What happened with the break in between your fights?
The thing is that I went out to TJ and had a fight, and that injury caused a lot. Like, it caused my fall down out of my activity, you know, and but I'm back, you know, I'm back, and that injury helped me, and it did hold me back on my career.
You're referring to a hand injury?
Yes.
Yeah, I know that there was a period of time where you're recovering from the hand injury.
Yeah.
You took some time off. We're coming up on, I believe, the 5th-year anniversary of your pro debut.
Yeah.
Right? You went pro like in November 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so you're basically fighting for your 5th-year anniversary.
Yeah. Yeah, because
happy anniversary, man.
Yeah.
And your birthday, right? Your birthday is coming up too?
November 5th, yeah.
It's got it all going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be my gift, you know. This fight should be my gift to myself, this win.
Something that I've seen, to the extent that you're comfortable talking about it, but you've mentioned that you fight for your cousin in a way, and I've seen you wear him on his trunks, and he's come up in a number of interviews that I've come across. And one of the things that you have said, a quote that I grabbed from one of these interviews was, "I'm living his dream right now." So it was a dream of his to be a professional boxer, which you now have the opportunity to do. Can you talk a little bit about what it means to you and how that inspired you into action?
As a kid, I would see myself as I see myself till now. I still see the same picture, same image as a kid, and just that my cousin never made it to the pros because took the wrong path. But either way, like I said, and just like you said, how you got that little quote of me living his dreams now as a pro, is because he wanted to become a pro and he never made it to the pros. So at me as a pro now, that's the reason that's the reason I say I'm living his dream now, because I have 11 pro fights and he didn't even get to make it to do one.
So let me ask you, you have been boxing since you were about 8 years old.
Yes.
So at this point, your cousin was an amateur fighter as well?
Amateur, yes.
And he was older than you?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the stories I've heard you tell is how you got into boxing to begin with. So you gained interest in it, funny enough, because you're not interested in watching boxing on TV.
Yeah.
But you became interested in it because your dad was watching boxing on TV.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah.
And then as a birthday gift, some years later, he took you to Azteca?
Yeah, he took me to Azteca, and that very moment we started. That's where I started my boxing career.
From when you were 8?
Yes.
When did you start competing as an amateur?
I believe like a month or two later after. So my coaches were saying like, "Oh, you know, you caught on pretty quick, and it looks like you're ready for your first amateur fight." And then I was like, "Well, let's go. I'm ready. You know, let's go. That's what I'm here for. Let's go."
So a few months later, you started fighting amateur. As we mentioned, you had 60 amateur fights, which include some back and forth with Ryan Garcia.
Yes.
Yeah, and so you have a couple wins and losses against Ryan. Is that the gist of it? A little bit of an amateur rivalry, I would say.
Yeah, that's how it is. In the amateurs, you run into anybody. It's a worldwide sport, you know, and yeah, we have had on and off fights, and yeah, we know each other pretty good.
In fact, you've sparred him as a professional as well.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you watch his fight last night?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of the knockout?
He did what he had to do. He did, and I'm sure he trained for that. You know, he knew Duno was a pretty hard opponent. But, I mean, I don't take nothing from the kid. Like I've always said, you know, he's got his talent. He's good. I respect him. He respects me. And yeah, he had to do what he had to do.
Stax, I know that you checked out that fight. There's been a lot of conspiracy theory and things like that going around the internet about the legitimacy of the fight. It seemed like a proper knockout to me. All I really need to make that decision is replay. But what is your thought?
You know, I had to go back and watch it because I was watching it on the computer, and it didn't seem legit at first. And then, like you said, there's always replay. It was a delayed reaction. He did what he had to, but you know what? I mean, he's gonna run into somebody that can take his punches. He went out there and did what he had to do because, honestly, I believe if Duno would have been able to take some of his punches, you know, in those early rounds and took Ryan into deep waters, Ryan would have been in trouble. I don't see Ryan as a technical boxer yet, or being able to have enough skills to, you know, hang in there with some of these guys at 35. You know, some of these top-notch competitors like Teofimo Lopez, like Devin Haney, like Lomachenko. You know, he's not at that level. Yeah, he caught Duno, who, you know, has never been knocked out before. He's never been stopped. I don't even think he's ever been dropped. But I mean, it was he did what he had to. He went in there and he stopped him early, exactly like, you know, I had predicted on the rundown. He needed to get in there and take care of business, which he did, because if he gets into that next level where he goes into deep waters, he's going to be in trouble. He just can't be depending on that one-punch knockout.
You just had to throw out that rundown prediction. I knew it was coming, man. I knew you were going to mention it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to change up his game. You know, I mean, that one-punch power only gets you so far in boxing.
In fairness, he seems to have improved. So one of the things that I had predicted on the rundown as well, incorrectly, unanimous decision for Ryan Garcia, not a first-round KO. Which, if I recall, you had it a few rounds beyond number one, buddy. If I'm just saying.
I had it the fifth. I said by the fifth.
You had it like fifth round or something like that. But I predicted a unanimous decision. One of the things I had said is I felt as though Ryan had touched that level of competition before with fights like we were talking about before with Carlos Morales, Jason Velez, and some of these other guys, and that he's more prepared now than he was then. Those fights were difficult for him. He still came away with the victory in those fights, but he's also stepped his game up in terms of training and things like that, now training with Eddie Reynoso. So I actually do look at it and say, my opinion is it appears that he's improved, right? Which he needs to do. Fight after fight, he needs to improve. I think, you know, young fighters like Ryan, young fighters like yourself, you're 23 years old, right?
22.
11 or 22. You'll be 23 in a few weeks here. But, you know, a young fighter like yourself with 11 fights in your career, it's important to kind of find new levels of competition and improve fight after fight. And it sounds like that's something that you're doing. Your opponent this time is, you said, I think 8-2-1. 8-2-1. Right? So a winning record. He's experienced a lot of success as a professional, has about the same amount of fights as you do. Mm. How important is that as a young fighter to find new levels of competition? Plus, he's left-handed, something you haven't experienced as a professional. Are these all things that you guys are looking for actively, like different challenges for you as a professional? Or is it just, at this point, just finding what you can and getting as much under your belt as you can?
Yeah, I mean, you look for whoever has got the best in the game, you know. And well, I mean, you don't really look for them either, because you just go in the ring and you gotta do what you gotta do with whoever they put you with.
With whoever they put, so it's kind of just to take all challengers at this point.
Yeah.
Although this does appear to be a different level of competition, right? Like this fight in particular seems like a step up.
Yes.
So I think
you're still fighting at featherweight. 20, are you still fighting at 26?
Yeah, this one I'm fighting at 130 because Leo was like, oh, you don't have to really, it's not a title fight or anything, so you could do 130. So I was like, all right, that sounds cool.
That's more comfortable for you.
Yeah, he just doesn't want me to kill myself for the weight, for like there's no belt in play, so it's like you could do 130. It's all right. Are you
gonna watch the fights on that card? You'll watch Leo fight, of course.
Yeah.
You gonna watch Deontay Wilder?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Do you like watching the heavyweights, or do you prefer smaller guys?
Yeah, those are interesting fights.
I was gonna say, which one bores you less, the heavyweights or the smaller guys?
No, I think the smaller guys.
Yeah. So you like the smaller guys better?
No, I'm saying
the other way.
I mean, sometimes, yeah, you know, that they are a little interesting, some, and some are not. Like it all depends on how the fight is going.
I gotcha. So you guys will watch Luis Ortiz, Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, last fight was a good fight, so I'm sure this one will be a good fight.
I thought it was a good fight.
Yeah.
Entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that so many people are critical of the rematch. Could have gone either way.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The other thing I think that's interesting is people forget, outside of the judges, everybody else in the world thought Luis Ortiz was winning that fight at the time he was stopped.
Yeah.
Except for the three judges, which happens
And the referee that stepped in the way of him.
And the referee
finishing off Wilder.
No comment. No. Oh, man. But, yeah, so that was an interesting fight with Ryan. You mentioned that you watched the main event of that fight, but there's a few other fights that I wanted to talk about. But, actually, before we do that, I thought we'd work into another segment. Are you ready, Stax?
Let's do this.
All right, guys, it's time for a segment on this show that we like to call Stump Stax, where we stump Stax with boxing facts. Here's how it works. I've pulled 3 facts about our guest, Jose Gomez, from recent interviews. 2 of them are true. 1 of them is made up. Stax's job is to figure out which one is fake. Are you ready to play Stump Stax?
Let's do it.
Okay. Poker face. Number 1. Within his family, a young Jose was said to harbor a lot of anger. His telltale mannerism was to lift his eyebrows in a way reminiscent of a rooster, earning him the nickname Gallo. Number 2. Among Jose's idols in the sport are Julio Cesar Chavez, Floyd Mayweather, and Bernard Hopkins. Jose described that Chavez's offense, Floyd's defense, and Hopkins' IQ create the, quote, perfect fighter. Number 3. No stranger to controversy, in a 2016 interview with ES News, Jose referred to a then Canelo Alvarez as a bit, quote, green for a Triple G fight, a comment that was, not surprisingly, met unfavorably by the subscribers of the channel. Stax, which one is fake?
I'm gonna say number 2.
Woo! You got one, man. You got one. That one's, you made it. You did it.
Nah, if he doesn't watch boxing, I mean, he doesn't really give a shit about Floyd or fucking Oscar or whatever the hell you said those names. That's what I just said.
It's funny that you... So this is a big deal. I want you guys to understand, because Stax's record at Stump Stax is probably like 1-10 or something like that. He just does not get these facts right. Yeah. But some of that is true, actually. There are elements of that I took from interviews that you gave where you mentioned that it's one way to look at fighters is to take the pieces or the components of them that make them great. Like in your case, you did mention Julio Cesar Chavez and Floyd Mayweather as people who you not idolize, but who as people that you would look up to. Particularly Floyd for his defense was one of the things that you had said. Talk a little bit about that. If you were to create kind of the perfect fighter, defense, offense, some of the other things, what are the examples? Who do you look to say this is a model of offense, this is a model of defense?
I'd say like I said in my interview, and I will continue to say, Mayweather is like the king of defense. He's also, because remember, your defense is your offense in the ring, and Mayweather, he is who he is because of his defense.
So one of the things that's interesting is I wouldn't describe you as you're not a Mayweather hater. You're a fan, right?
No, yeah, of course.
Which is a lot of times it goes one way or another. I feel like people either love Floyd Mayweather or they can't stand him.
Yeah, I know. They just say because he doesn't hit, he doesn't fight, he runs. He runs, yeah. But if you really pay attention to his fights, he's hitting, but he moves. You just can't catch him. And that's what people don't like. Obviously, people want to see the Mexican style fight forward, all brawl it all out, and see cuts and all that. And Mayweather's a smart fighter. He's not there to get beat up or whatever. He's an entertainer, like he says.
Real quick, shout out to Gio Garcia from Against the Ropes. You guys follow Against the Ropes. Shout out to Jason Soto. What's up, Jason? Thanks for joining us on the chat. We were talking.
That's cool, Gio. I don't want to go on your show anyways, Gio. Thanks.
Oh man, yeah, that's right. Stax wasn't invited.
I'm like 0-2
on Against the Ropes
podcast now.
Yeah, it's because you always talk trash about him on our show, so they don't like to bring you on.
I don't even know who those dudes are.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
I can't even find a podcast.
I can't even. Oh man. Wait until Aaron Sorio gets on. I'll say the same thing about the standing 8.
That's fine.
I'm just messing around, bro. I love the standing 8. I'm just kidding, you guys. I'm a fan. But talking about Floyd Mayweather's defensive capabilities here with Jose Gomez and Luis Mejia. So the thing that's interesting, I think, about Floyd Mayweather is a lot of times I always have felt like the onus is on his opponent to bring a game plan that will allow them to score and land punches and stuff like that. Yeah. I think it's funny that people get upset with Floyd for not getting hit. You know what I mean? Like, people get mad at him for not getting hit instead of getting mad at his opponent for not having the right game plan, right? Like, there are people who brought a good game plan. Marcos Maidana, the first time around, brought a good game plan.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Castillo brought a good game plan.
De La Hoya.
Exactly. De La Hoya. But
well,
they brought a good game plan. It's not his fault other cats can't hit him.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
why hate on him because he can't get hit?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Hate on the guys who weren't able to do it.
I think there are people who are used to the pretty boy Floyd.
They can hate on Floyd all they want, but I guarantee you one thing, man. Check this out. Floyd would have never let that shit happen like it did last night. He would have never bowed down to the goddamn UFC the way Canelo did. That was a bitch move by Golden Boy and by DAZN to do that, man.
Tell us what you really think.
2 o'clock in the damn morning in New York trying to watch a Canelo fight. That ain't right, man.
I don't disagree.
Right. They should have just went head to head with the UFC. I bet you Floyd sat back and laughed his ass off.
Well, I think they're trying to join forces,
he stays
right?
laughing at Golden Boy.
Yeah, I think it's definitely disappointing for the fans. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, HBO went through this same experience where their commentators had to fill like almost 90 minutes of time due to a series of first-round knockouts that had occurred. This was a little bit different. They had waited. This wasn't because the fighters were contracted to come to the ring late. It was because they were waiting for a UFC fight to finish. And I think the thing that's like the most discouraging is, you know, when they're showing clips of the fighters all gloved up and ready to go, and they're both like napping. You know what I mean? They're both literally napping on the couch, and you're like, oh, okay, like obviously this isn't starting for like another 45 minutes at least.
Yeah.
The two guys are in their gloves already and just sitting there having a nap, you know, at 10 at night or whatever.
And they were passing the fight.
I guess Golden Boy paid ESPN as well last night, from what I gathered, is that they offered ESPN some type of monetary, you know, some money to actually stream that fight inside of the T-Mobile Arena.
Right.
And ESPN agreed, you know, I guess there was some type of, you know, number made up there where Golden Boy kicked down some cash to ESPN to let them stream that fight so the fans inside of the T-Mobile Arena could watch it.
Well, that's great for the fans who are inside of T-Mobile Arena. For those of us watching on DAZN, it was just about 90 minutes of airtime you had to sit through, listening to Chris Mannix and I mean, if boxing puts you to sleep, Jose, then for sure that part of the broadcast.
I wasn't there. I wasn't at the TV at that moment. I knew it was some type of bullshit was gonna happen.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Ryan won by first round knockout, and then there was an extensive period of Chris Mannix and the DAZN commentators. Not that I have anything against their commentary team.
I do.
Dude, I watched that. I watched that Ryan fight. Then I watched the whole Burchell Sosa fight live there in Carson. I packed up all my shit. I edited pictures. I got into an argument with a security guard, right? Then I walk out. I drive from Carson to Manhattan Beach, fuck around for a while, order dinner, wait for dinner, get my dinner, eat my dinner, and then the fight started.
Oh,
That's
man.
how much time is between fights, man.
I believe it.
That was fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I fell asleep several times.
So did Canelo. So did Kovalev. Kovalev was straight passed out on the couch.
Twice.
Yeah.
Kovalev passed out twice.
By the 11th round, he was out.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Before we talk about the main event, though, there are some interesting undercards. We've already touched on Ryan Garcia. I want to have a quick comment with those of you on the chat and Stacks and those of you at the table about Seniesa Estrada and Marlen Esparza. A very interesting fight for one reason, because they were fighting 3-minute rounds. So it was 10 3-minute rounds. Women, most recently, are accustomed to fighting 2-minute rounds, although every woman who's ever been on this show has said they train for 3-minute rounds. I would say the conditioning played a factor. You could see that Marlen Esparza's conditioning wasn't quite the same as Seniesa Estrada's. But here's what I want to ask you guys on the chat, and Stacks, I want to ask you this as well. I did not see that as a very close fight. So my opinion is that Seniesa Estrada was winning the majority of that fight, particularly after the fourth round. Marlen Esparza had appeared to tire. She had struggled with her conditioning. and understanding that the cut and things like that were involved. But I just didn't see it as a close fight. I thought that when Sinisa wasn't engaged, she was her defense was on point. I feel like when they were exchanging, she was landing the cleaner and more effective punches. At the end, Sergio Mora, her own stablemate, said it was close. Chris Mannix, all the people said that it was close. I didn't think it was close. What did you think?
No, it wasn't close, man. I gave Marlen maybe 2 rounds.
Second round, exactly.
Same thing, yeah.
Second round and, I don't know, one of the middle rounds maybe. And that's just being nice to Marlen. You know, I mean, it wasn't close. She was, once that cut occurred in the 5th round, which Marlen didn't even really fucking know what round it happened in when they were interviewing her after the fight. What happened early, like the 2nd or the 3rd, I think. Yeah. So it happened in the 5th. It happened in the 5th. And she was already getting beat. You know, I know that cut had to have hurt. I mean, she had to have been in a lot of pain. But by the 7th round, she was huffing and puffing. You know, I mean,
yeah, she was struggling to get.
Yeah,
she was struggling. Yeah, she was winded. And Sinisa came out in good shape, and she took care of business. I mean, I did see a couple of extra headbutts in there. I don't know if they were on purpose. I know it looked like maybe she was leading with her head once that cut was open. But you know what? I mean, it happens.
One thing I noticed too is that, I mean, when Marlen was turning back to go to her corner, like, she looked gassed even to sit down on the chair.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, yeah, she was gassed.
After about 4 rounds, she seemed the conditioning wasn't really, it didn't seem on point. A couple things from the chat. Ulysses Castro, shout out. We'll get to Kovalev and Canelo and break that down a little bit. Shout out to world champion Paul Banky. What's up, Paul? Thanks for joining the chat. I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, real quick, though, man, on that fight, I think the Nevada State Athletic Commission dropped the ball again, and I'll tell you why.
Yep.
If the doctor goes in there and the doctor calls the fight, that's one thing. But once the doctor looks at her, that referee shouldn't be asking shit. Or if the referee did ask her, he should have said, do you want to continue? Not can you see, but do you want to continue? Let her make that decision if she wants to continue or not. If the doctor allows her to continue, and if she says no, it's over. It's not going to the cards. That's a technical knockout. Once she decides that she cannot continue, it should have been a technical knockout.
Well, especially when she said that I can't go. You know, when the referee asked her, she said, I can't go.
Yeah, because she walked to the corner and said, I'm done. And the doctor looked at her. The doctor says, you're fine. Then Robert Byrd looks at her and says, can you see? And she says, no, I can't see. And he says, okay, the fight's over. And that's where I think the confusion came in, is, you know, of the way he asked the question. He should have, instead of asking her if she could see, maybe he should have asked her, do you want to continue? And he gave her the opportunity to continue or not continue. You know, because if the doctor's allowing it to go, then she's got to get up and fight.
Yep.
You know?
Regardless,
the doctor says,
I think regardless in this case, it was a bad cut. The stoppage came and the right person won. So there was obviously a moment there where there was a lot of confusion around, hey, is this a TKO or not? Robert Byrd had to talk to the athletic commission. It appeared that he had originally ruled it a TKO. They were saying it had to go to the scorecards, things like that. So there was a lot of confusion. It wasn't the finest moment, but they got the right winner.
Okay, you say that now, right, Sean? But what if the fight would have been closer?
I agree.
What if it would have been closer and then she would have quit? And they wouldn't have called it a TKO, and then they would have went to the cards, and maybe Marlen would have pulled off a majority decision or a split decision, and you know, I mean,
I think where it could have been bad, where it could have been bad is if the doctor is saying this can continue, and she is saying no, I can't because I can't see as a result of the cut, because she wants to go to the scorecard. So, for instance, if you thought she was winning in the early rounds and she wanted to stop it immediately, and she could just say, "Oh, I can't see," and then you go to the scorecard. That would have been bad. I do agree, but I don't think in this case that she was actually that she was winning anyway. Sergio Big Serge Estrada, as a matter of fact, her cut man on the chat. Shout out to Big Serge. Thanks for joining on.
What's up, Big Serge?
Gio Garcia, no more 3-minute rounds, please. Explain that, brother, because that fight was fire. It was one of the best fights. Yeah, that was one of the best fights of the night. I thought that fight was fantastic. I think the 3-minute rounds were bad for Marlen Esparza. They helped Seniesa Estrada quite a bit, and
not only that, but Seniesa was a smaller fighter.
Yeah, and she was pushing her backwards. Exactly. She was landing the cleaner punches. Her defense was on point. It ended in a stoppage, which was one of the things that we expected to happen once they expanded to 3-minute rounds. So I thought it was a good fight. Yeah, stop it.
Stop it, Gio.
My goodness, Big Surge. We were just talking about the Sinisa fight and the cut. I think we're all in agreement here for those of us who watched it. And if you guys on the chat disagree, let me know. But I thought Sinisa clearly won. I didn't really think it was that close.
Yes, exactly.
I didn't really think it was that close.
And I like the fact that it was a 3-minute rounds because when
judges got it right.
Yeah, on the 2-minute round fights, it seems like they're just trying to go out balls out, like just trying to swing for the fences because they know they only have 2 minutes. They can't even set up.
There are some men's fights that I watch. I'm like, I wish these were 2-minute rounds right now. Could go either way. This one wasn't one of those ones. It's fine that these are 3-minute rounds.
Right.
Don't talk about rigging down like that,
man. You know what? Some cats would say that stuff about Floyd Mayweather. You know, I think I can appreciate the craft too. I'm not talking about rigging down that way. Oh man.
What other fight did you have on that card? Yeah, Blair Cobb.
He got knocked down again, and
Blair
he came back and won.
Yep. Here, I got this one. Woo! It's for Blair Cobb.
Right? Ric Flair. Bro.
Yeah, this is the second fight in a row that he got knocked down. Came back and won.
And I think it was kind of a similar punch, right? Like kind of towards the back of the head.
This one was pretty clearly back of the head punch, although I don't know. I think you can't discredit his opponent because the reason that shot landed to the back of the head, it was all that was there. It was all that Blair Cobb was offering. Right. So he bent over at the waist all the way down. His opponent was throwing a right hand. As a result, it connected towards the back of the head. He went down. Like, I guess the alternative is to say that, hey, if somebody's completely bent over at the waist, you can't throw punches at all. Like, you know what I mean? And so I feel like he took a shot to the back of the head, and he went down.
Yeah.
But, hey, he got back up, and he delivered a great knockout, a great stoppage. So, I mean, I guess it technically wasn't a knockout. He did knock him down with a vicious hook and then broke a rib. Couldn't continue. Broke a rib. Guy couldn't continue. Not a bad fight. Couple guys. Andreas Moreno Rodriguez said Team Gallo. Team Gallo Gomez, Rene Rodriguez.
What's up, Moreno?
So you're getting a couple shout-outs on the chat right now. Oh, man. Gio said, I'd rather see 10 dynamic 2-minute rounds. And it looked like they were going to make it past the fourth. Sinisa had no problem going past the fourth. Right. She looked like she could have kept going for the 12 if she wanted. And she said she could fight 15.
I don't think 2-minute rounds are very dynamic, though. Because, you know what I mean? They have no time to set up. They have to throw. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like the equivalent of a 4-round fight, you know, as you're starting your professional career. There's no time to really get acclimated. How many rounds is your fight going to be?
8.
8 rounds?
This is the first time going 8 rounds.
This is your first, assuming it goes all 8 rounds, this will be the first time that it goes 8 rounds?
Yeah, man. We're ready for all 8 rounds.
You practice for it, right?
Yeah, of course.
You train for it.
Yes.
See, that's what everybody said. We train for it.
Yeah.
We train for it. Good, man. Do you think that there's a difference in the dynamic of the 8-round fight? Does it mean that you'll take your time more? Or what does that mean for your game plan against the fighter?
Yeah, I mean, you get time to study your opponent more, see his
timing,
his off, his defective. What is he doing wrong? Where can you come in when he's putting his hands down or what? You got more time to study your opponent, break him down more, you know.
So I've heard you describe yourself in effect as like a boxer puncher, right? Mm. You can do both. You can box, but you can punch as well.
Yes.
And you also said that you like to switch up, kind of southpaw, back and forth. You'll switch hits sometimes. So given your style, does the longer fight favor your style, or do you think shorter fights do?
However the fight turns out, you know, we go as the fight goes, and whatever the fight presents us is what we're ready for. You know, you always have to be ready for the unexpected.
Theater of the unknown. That's what they call it.
Right. Well, the thing with a normal fighter would have to adjust, just like an orthodox fighter. But since he does both, now he can adjust even more now because he has that southpaw stance too. You know what I mean? I've seen him spar and he has some heavy hands, man. So, you know.
Yeah. I actually think that one of the reasons we had that severe gash or the headbutt in the Estrada fight last night, she does a lot of switch hitting. You know, she kind of goes lefty and then goes right. Yeah, and a lot of times she would be stepping in.
Yeah, it causes a lot of knee
Bumping.
interaction and headbutts and all that. Yeah.
Have you ever taken a bad headbutt?
Yeah, in a fight. I mean, but sometimes you don't even expect it. Just like boom, oh damn.
Yeah.
There goes the headbutt.
Yeah.
See the stars. And shit.
I can't imagine. That cut last night, it was grotesque. I don't want to make excuses. That had to hurt, and it was I think it required 20 stitches, but it was a bad cut. It wasn't as bad
as... You could see her skull.
Yeah, you could see the white part of her skull.
You
could see the skull, man. I was like, oh.
That's what I kept saying. Is that her skull showing through her head right now? Like, that's gnarly. Is that really what that was? I'm not a medical professional. Yeah. Is Serge still on here? Serge, let me know if that was her skull that we could see it. I'm getting dizzy now just discussing that.
I almost saw her thinking, man. No, just kidding. No, there was a certain part. Bro. There was a certain part of the fight where, when they were cleaning her off, like you can literally see the flap, like, you know what I mean. You can see the white right through. Like you can tell, like it looked like a skull. Like, you know what I mean. And I was like, wow.
It did look like a skull.
Yeah,
I agree.
I was just like, damn.
Yeah. Oh man, David Gomez on the chat. I'll do my best. Eres mi idolo.
You're my idol.
Idol.
I figured that's what it was, but how was the pronunciation?
You're getting better.
Getting better?
You're getting better.
I went on the Against the Ropes podcast this past week, and they tested me with names of Mexican, like, cities. Right. They literally put a map in front of me and filmed me trying to say the names. They gave me an A-, though. That's so good. I think I'm doing okay.
That's good.
I'm doing better than Stax at this point.
You're doing better than Kevin Hart, I'll tell you that much.
I haven't heard him try.
You don't want to.
All right. I suppose we should talk about Canelo Kovalev. It's come up a few times on here. So, Stax, I'll get your first impression of Canelo Kovalev.
I think it was a very technical fight. Canelo, he boxed. I think he was respecting Kovalev's power. He landed some good body shots. Kind of back and forth. It kind of felt like, sometimes you have a filling out round. It kind of felt like a whole filling out fight for both fighters. They both really respected each other. It looked like, in my eyes, Canelo really respected Kovalev's power. Kovalev was boxing the type of fight where he wasn't going to wear down. I think he probably took his age and that last fight with Yard into consideration, and him and Buddy McGirt came up with a game plan where he needed to box and not, exert a lot of energy and try to make it into deep waters. And it was working for a while. It was a really close fight. I think two of the judges at the end of the 11th actually had Canelo up by 2 points, 96-94, and then one of the judges had it even 95-95. It was a close fight, but he just got caught. He didn't take a dive. He got hit. He was hurt. It started with the overhand right. That kind of stumbled him a little bit. Then he got caught with a shot to the temple, and he wobbled, and as we've seen, Canelo, he dropped his hands, and Canelo caught him right on the chin and put him to sleep. I mean, it was a brutal knockout, but he didn't take a lot of punishment in that fight, nor did Canelo. So it's not like either fighter was really beat up. I mean, he landed his fair share of jabs. He was throwing a lot more. Seemed like he was a lot more active. He might not have been landing as many punches as I think he wanted to, but I mean, as far as the activity level goes, he was pretty active in popping that jab out there, and it was a technical fight. I mean, and I think the person that we all expected to won the fight. I actually thought that maybe he would drop Canelo. I thought maybe he would be able to drop him and then Canelo win a majority decision. Something kind of like the Ward fight. It didn't play out that way, of course, but it was a good fight.
Hey, check it out. All you take a dive cats, stop it. What are you talking about? Just watch the replay. It was a fantastic knockout.
Not only that, but Canelo hurt him. He hurt him to the body. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a round where Canelo got him with a nice left hook to the body, and you could see his whole body kind of just cringe. You know what I mean? And he played it off pretty well. Yeah. But he hurt him, and he hurt him pretty good.
I actually think they showed a tremendous amount of respect for what Canelo was bringing and the power that Canelo could bring to that. Well, I mean, what was your assessment of the fight? If I were to ask you, Jose, because you did watch the main event, yes, right? So before the stoppage, so coming into that round, Did that feel as though it was a close fight to you? Did it look like someone was winning a wide decision either way? How do you expect it? Like, forget what the judges had it. What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, Canelo was the aggressor in the fight, and Kovalev was throwing punches, making points. But let's not forget, Canelo was well defense, closed up, nice and tucked, and he was just, like I told you, you have more rounds to break down the fighter. So then that's what Canelo was doing, and that's what he was waiting for, just the precise moment, because he was working that body. It's like they say, how do you break down a tree, from the top or from the bottom? Yeah. You start from the bottom to the top. And that's what Canelo did with Kovalev. He was working his body throughout the rounds, working his body, and it looked like Kovalev was gassing out little by little. And yeah, he got him with that right punch, and Kovalev just put his hands down, and that right hand just came in smooth and just dropped him.
Diana Cornell says, Team Gomez, baby. She gave you the flex. So, yeah, and I see that you learned from your last interview with ES News where I mentioned during Stump Stacks, you called Canelo a little bit green for Triple G before their first fight. This was before their first fight, coming off of like the Amir Khan fight or something like that. Man, people did not like that. No, I'm just
he was actually working
don't criticize Canelo.
Yeah, he was actually working that same right hand with Kovalev. I don't know if you guys seen it. That same right hand he knocked out Khan with, he was throwing it at Kovalev, but Kovalev just knew he was waiting for it, but he changed up the game on him.
It was an interesting game plan. I think Kovalev from the very beginning, if you even listen to Buddy McGirt's instruction in the corner, there's a point in time where Buddy McGirt told him, hey, he's trying to draw you in, don't fall for it, just keep jabbing. That's
keep
all you need,
outside.
just keep jabbing.
Yeah, keep
right?
him out, because if you let Canelo in, he's the smaller guy, so yeah. When you're a smaller guy fighting a bigger guy and you're inside, that's all you know, that's where you come in play. You do all you start doing your work.
And the funny thing is, a lot of those, they weren't the traditional Kovalev jabs that we're accustomed to. You know, that jab that dropped Anthony Yard, that was like, you know, a super powerful, almost a power punch type jab, right? It was really just to keep Canelo at bay.
Off of him. Yeah,
keep Canelo at bay. And the truth is, I think that had that gone to the scorecards, this is one of the great judges' dilemmas. It's almost like the Triple G2 fight where you look at it and you go, how much are these jabs worth? Like, you know, are they worth one of Canelo's body shots, or are they like how much is 15 jabs? And there are points where you could literally count the jabs, right? Like 15, you know, unanswered jabs, and then boom, a big body shot from Canelo. Yeah. And you're kind of like,
you bring Yard up, but the thing is, the difference between Yard and Canelo is that I think once he hit him with that jab, once he hit Yard with that jab, Yard was already exhausted. It was more like, I'm done because of exhaustion, not because he hurt me with that punch. I'm just fucking tired and I'm done.
I'm not sparring.
Yeah. I guess my point is really that if you look at the jab that he was throwing, it wasn't
the same.
It wasn't the stick. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't put everything into that jab. It was a lot of, you know, like, hey, just keep him back. Keep him back. Yeah,
stay back.
It's like when the bigger brother, when, you know, my brothers are quite a bit taller than me, when they just put your hand on the forehead, you know, and let you swing at the body, but you can't do it. Yeah. There's a little bit of that, you know. And
scrappy dude.
Yeah, exactly. But funny enough, it won some rounds, in my opinion. Yeah. Because you look at it, and there's so little activity, and there are rounds where Canelo couldn't reach him. Yeah. You know, and you're like, oh, well, he couldn't reach him, so that little pitter-pat jab must have won that round.
Yeah. That, and I don't think he was fully committing. He was throwing the jab out there, but he, you know, usually you're throwing the jab out there and you follow up with a nice right or something, but he wasn't even doing that. Yeah. It was more like, I'm trying to make points, and Canelo, all Canelo was doing, if you notice, he was kind of just trying to figure him out.
Exactly.
He was trying to figure out, okay, what do I do now? He's going to keep throwing the jab. Do I go left? Do I go right? And you could see it, you know, and I knew it. Once came to the later rounds, when right before the knockout, I think they had even told him, like pretty much like finish him now, like now go in there and get him, you know. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, like that's when he went in there and he started kind of putting his weight on, you know, start landing those nice shots.
You could see the other thing that I thought was interesting from Buddy McGirt is it wasn't like a, hey, fight tall and keep him back. Yeah. Buddy McGirt was literally like, whatever level he is at, that's the level I want you at. Yeah. When he drops low, you drop low and still use the jab, right? And it was like, that's how committed they were to that game plan. Like, hey, we're just going to jab our way to victory here. And the interesting thing is it almost worked. It almost worked. It almost worked for Triple G, actually. Yep. In their second fight, it almost worked for Triple G. It was a very close fight. So now, is this like the scouting report on Canelo going forward? Is this what it is? Like, just Just jab. Just keep him at the end of your jab as much as you can.
I mean, Canelo has improved a lot, throughout these past years. Every fight he looks more and more better. He looks better and better. His defense, his offense, everything, he looks more like he's been working on. Yeah, he's been working on it, and you can tell like he has even learned, just like you guys say, Mayweather. He's learned a lot off of Mayweather. He's done a lot of just like Mayweather.
I don't think it's a blueprint, Sean, or I don't think that's the way, people are just saying, oh, that's the way we need to fight Canelo. I just think the last couple fighters, as far as Triple G goes and as far as Kovalev goes, and even, some spots with Jacob, that's just their style of fighting. That's just the way they fight. I don't think it was any.
But they had success at it. That's what I mean. Like, it's Triple G style, it's Kovalev's style, but they were successful.
Yeah, they were, but I don't see, anybody really taking that into consideration as far as maybe we need to change our style up. Because, I mean, somebody like Gary Vinchenko, he's not going to sit there and jab Canelo. He's going to go in and, if say they were to fight, he's going to try to make it into a war the same way he did with Triple G. So I just think it all depends on the individual fighter. You get somebody like Zurdo Ramirez, for instance, if he fights, Gilberto Ramirez is going to use his length. He's going to pop that jab, and he's probably going to use that same type of style. But I think it just depends on what these fighters, whoever he's fighting, is what their style is already. I don't think they're going to adjust much of their own style to conform to Canelo.
Real quick, we're getting a lot of Team Gomez on the chat. So Diana Coronel, Miranda Gomez, and Alex Rodriguez all say Team Gallo. Thanks, guys, for joining in. I appreciate it. Oh, Paulina says Team Gallo as well. You guys got all the Team Gallo shout-outs over here. Oh, man. So what is next for a Canelo Alvarez? Certainly, he doesn't stick around the 175-pound division to take on the likes of a Beterbiev and those cats. I suppose he could, although I think there are smarter, bigger business and smarter fights for him to take, particularly at 168. What is your expectation of where Canelo will go next, Stacks?
So, Canelo has he's got 8 fights left with.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
360
crazy contract.
$365 million. Crazy contract, 8 fights left with the company. So, we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, where he's not going to get a voluntary defense and DAZN accept this voluntary defense. He has to have fights that make sense and make DAZN money. So,
franchise champion.
I honestly believe his next 8 opponents are going to be handpicked. They're going to be handpicked opponents that are going to make money. So he has the WBO title. The WBO may say, you know what, you're not going to fight a mandatory. Go ahead and have a voluntary defense at 175. But he's not going to choose to do that because of the fact that DAZN's not going to accept that. They're going to say, you know what, we don't accept that opponent. You either move back down to 60, you move to 68, or you stay at 75 and you bring us a big opponent that's going to make us money. I don't think he had an opponent lined up that was going to make that type of money in September, and that's why the fight was called off. That's why it was postponed until now, because they wanted to see what Kovalev and Yard was going to do moving forward. If Charlo does decide to cross the street to DAZN to leave PBC for one fight and come to DAZN, I could possibly see a fight with Charlo. I don't know if it would be at 60. I mean, it would have to be, I guess. It would have to be at 60 for the middleweight title, but he has a ton of options in those 3 divisions. He can go to 60, he can go to 68 and fight a super fight with Colin Smith. I mean, he could even go across the pond and make, like tens and 20s of millions of dollars over there across the pond with Colin Smith. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't think he holds on to that title, though. I think he vacates, because I can see that that title going to either Zurdo Ramirez or Vogt. Let them fight for that vacant title. They're both top-ranked fighters. That fight would be easy to make. But I don't see him sticking around 75.
What are the chances, you think, of Billy Joe Saunders at 168 for Billy Joe's title? He signed with DAZN now.
You know what? Billy Joe it's a winnable fight, but I think it's a difficult fight. He's kind of like a Fury. They're both, they both train in camp together.
No more difficult than a Caleb Smith fight.
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean,
they're both difficult.
I think I think Caleb would bang a little bit more. I think, they're both difficult, but I just think his style. Canelo's always had problems with those type of boxers. You know, he had problems with Lara. You know, like you said, you know, with Kovalev and with Triple G as well. You know, that style presents a little bit of, you know, where he can't figure it out. He tends to have trouble figuring those types of styles out. So, you know, somebody like Billy Joe Saunders, he does that. He's a real defensive fighter. He's going to pick and choose to come in on him. And I think even more than Kovalev and Triple G, he's going to be on his back foot most of the time, having Canelo chasing him around. And I think it's a tough fight. I don't know if it's a fight that fans want to see, but I mean, it would be a tough fight for him, and it could make some money. I mean, like you said, they're both his own, but.
Yeah, I mean, I want to reiterate it. Michael Gomez, shout out to Michael Gomez on the chat. He says, unfortunately, there isn't another star power like Floyd had with Manny, and Caleb Smith is a problem for Canelo. I kind of agree with both of those sentiments. Is that everybody besides Triple G at this point is kind of a step down. There's not, you don't look at someone else and go, that person will bring in the tickets. They'll bring in the money the way that Triple G brings in the money. And at this point, you can hear he's starting to be more open to a Triple G fight in the near future. But I actually think what might make more sense for Canelo, coming off of a 175-pound victory, is to fight at 168 pounds. If he's going to fight, it has to be someone who's going to bring a crowd, and it has to be a legacy moment, which means he's got to fight for a belt. Okay? So you're looking at that, and it's like, okay, who's he going to fight? He could fight Caleb Smith on his own, or he could fight Billy Joe Saunders, who Billy Joe Saunders had some vulnerability in his last win, was really fighting it. It was his first fight at 168 pounds, right? You could take on Billy Joe Saunders, pick up a 168-pound belt, and then if you want to fight Triple G again because you want the biggest payday that you can get, you make him come fight you at 168, right? Like you make him come somewhere else. You make him step up.
There is a fight, though. There is a fight that makes a ton of sense and will make a ton of money, especially if it would be held in Mexico City, and that is a fight for the WBC title at super middleweight between him and David Benavidez.
He said he doesn't want to fight Mexican nationals, though.
I mean, you know what, though? That fight right there makes a ton of sense because, to me, David Benavidez is still a little green. I think he would have trouble with Canelo, and that's a winnable fight for Canelo. Would it be a tough-ass fight? I believe it would be a tough-ass fight, but Canelo could pull it off. And that fight right there, I think it would be something like Canelo-Floyd, you know, where a loss for Benavidez wouldn't actually help him, but it would actually, I mean, it wouldn't hurt him, but it would help him in the long run because he would learn from a loss to somebody like Canelo, you know.
What about I remember a while back they were talking about Munguia Canelo.
They were. I thought that was interesting too for a number of reasons.
Munguia ain't shit. Munguia ain't nothing. Munguia ain't shit.
Dude,
Munguia hopefully he fights Jesse Vargas and Vargas beats his ass. He has no type of boxing style. He hits hard, of course, but he doesn't have any style. He doesn't know how to box. He doesn't have any defense. He's lucky that Japanese guy knew he didn't hit harder because he would have put him on his ass.
Well, the only thing I mean I understand that part. What I was saying was just because of the hype that was started at that time was Jaime. You know what I mean? Canelo, hey, put them together. Like you know what I mean? I've heard some stuff around there. They were saying that they were trying to make the fighters.
I think,
but it won't happen.
Yeah,
but it won't happen at 54 and at 60.
Course,
Jaime doesn't have basically. I would think that Jaime needs to have a belt or something to offer Canelo. You know what I mean? And also, Canelo has been on this kick where he said multiple times at this point that he wants to only do good things for Mexico, and he wants to rule out essentially people of Mexican descent from his opponent list. He doesn't want to fight any other Mexican cats. And if once you start to look at that, then it's like, okay, well, the people who are going to bring you the audience are from the UK, right? Because they're going to bring over English fans.
Right.
You'll bring all the cats from Hispanic fans, Latinos, Latin America, and then your Caleb Smiths, your Billy Joe Saunders. Those people will bring all fans from the UK.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they seem to make the most sense if he legitimately feels that way. Now I think, okay, if you've got 8 fights left on your contract, right? You look at it and you go, I don't even know if I can name 8 people that are going to make big fights for Canelo. Like, okay, you've got your Charlos, you've got Demetrius Andrade, Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, I guess if what you're saying is Canelo has to run through the whole 168 champion list and the whole 175-pound champion list, but, like, that's a pretty crazy list, and some of those fights don't seem to make sense. Like, if you told me he was going to fight Beterbiev, I would say that's surprising to me. Like, it doesn't make sense. You know?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, and the people who criticize him for picking, hey, I have a comment to the people who are criticizing him for picking Kovalev. Like, what are you talking about? Like, if a cat like Roy Jones can start his career at middleweight, go up to heavyweight, and pick John Ruiz to win a title belt off of, we don't go and criticize him for not fighting Lennox Lewis. They're like not, you know what I mean? They're not the same size of individual. Like, there was a clear size differential between these two. It was a strategic pick, sure. I guess you could call it a cherry pick, but he's fighting someone who's much. They're not in the same weight class. Let's just put it that way. Right. I mean, the dude even make 175 had to weigh himself 3 times. You know what I mean?
I could even see him unifying with Bivol. Honestly, you know,
I could see that.
I'm not saying it would be the next fight, but I could see him unifying that title with Bivol. I think him and Bivol would actually be a pretty good fight as well.
Or Zurdo or Vajdik, if one of those guys picks up a vacant 175-pound belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I could see that. Either of those.
Well, the only way they would pick up a vacant belt is if Canelo let it go, let the title go at 75. So, yeah, like I said, unification I think would be a pretty good fight. There's, like I said, there's a ton of fights to be made, but is the money really there? And unless, like you said, unless he's going to go across the pond or travel across the pond, I mean, there's not a lot of big money here no more. He might have to go to Mexico and even take a fight in Mexico, because it kind of looked like there was still a bunch of empty seats last night in the MGM, you know, so.
Yeah, real quick to Michael Gomez, he says Charlo and Andrade are high risk and low reward. I don't disagree. I'm just saying that if you have 8 fights left on your contract, there's not a clear path to 8 fights at this. Like, that's a lot of fights. 8 fights. The cat only fights 2, maybe 3 times a year. You know what I mean? Like, if he's going to fight 2 times, 8 fights, he's got 4 more years of fights. We better hope some superstars emerge in that time for Canelo to challenge against, because they're running out of star power, with the exception of the boys from across the pond, is my sense.
Yeah.
And then there was the fight that you were at, Stax. You were at some fights last night.
Yeah, I was at the top-ranked card. You know, it was what it was. They had looked like maybe a couple hundred people in the crowd. It wasn't very many people out there, but it was a good card. I mean, got to see some local talent. Javier Molina took care of business, knocked out a Japanese opponent in the first round. The main event, you had Sosa and Burchell. Mexican versus Puerto Rico rivalry going on there for Burchell's super featherweight title, his WBC super featherweight title. And Sosa, man, I give all the credit in the world to that kid, man. Tough individual. Took a lot of punishment, a lot of body shots. Burchell was he's on a different level.
He's a savage,
and
man.
There's something there that, and I don't know what it is, because it hasn't been brought up in the media. It hasn't been brought up on social media or anything. But there's some type of rift there between him and Valdez, where he says that, hey, he wants Oscar Valdez. He wants him to beat this guy Gutierrez that he's fighting November 30th, and then he wants Oscar Valdez. There's something, it's personal. He's saying it's personal, but he hasn't got into exactly what it is. But he wants Valdez, and I think after Valdez's injury and his broken jaw, I don't think he wants any part of Burchell. Not even at 130, not even moving up to 130. You know, and he's going to be the smaller fighter against Burchell. And if that happens, you think that broken jaw was bad, they might end up taking Valdez out on the stretcher, man, because he's a tough kid. But Burchell is just he's a whole different monster. He goes to the body, he punches to the head, he puts his combinations together. The kid, the guy's legit, man. He's a legit world champion at 130 pounds. I think he can clean up that division. I think he beats Farmer. I think he beats any title holder at 130 right now.
Yeah, I think the thing that's interesting about him is he kind of has this characteristic or identity of a volume puncher, someone who throws a lot of punches, which you see from a lot of people. You see guys who throw a lot of punches.
But he's accurate.
But he's not just accurate, but they also hurt.
Yes.
That's the thing, right? Like, he's not just, like, throwing punches out there to swarm you and try and hope that he's going to outpoint you and things like this. It's like, no, I'm throwing fire out there at you. You know what I mean? I'm throwing a lot of punches, and they're going to come at you, and they're going to hit particularly your body, your head. And you could see Sosa was just, like, overwhelmed, man. Like, it wasn't just, like, you look at Lomachenko, and it's like death by 1,000 cuts. You know what I mean? Like, it's not devastating. You don't look at any one punch and go, wow, that was, like, super devastating. It's just over time you're accumulating punishment. And you look at this cat, and it's like that the period of time to accumulate punishment is much shorter. Not that I think he would beat Lomachenko, but
he doesn't waste any punches. And like I said, it was so empty in there last night that those body shots echoed through the damn Stump Center, man. I mean, every time he hit that cat, it just echoed through that whole arena, man. It was brutal.
Well, let me
those
ask.
Body shots was brutal.
Let me ask. You talked about the attendance a few times, Jose. Obviously, you roll deep. I can see on the chat here we got a lot of the team Gallo. You get a lot of support here when you fight here. Your next fight will be obviously on the Deontay Wilder undercard. Do you feel like that'll be a difference, basically, fighting in there instead?
No. It's like one of my buddies from the gym was telling me he's actually fighting on the card as well. He was like, "Hey, how is it in Vegas?" And I was like, "Honestly, I have never fought over there. You know, I have never fought over there. I fought in New York with Leo and when he fought Frampton, but honestly, the only thing that changes is the locker rooms. You know, to me, that's what I've seen. You know, that's what I've experienced at the Staples Center over there, at the Barclays Center, and everywhere I fought, it's just like the lockers are what changes." That's all that changes, you know. The arena, like the whole setup, everything is the same. So when you come out, just expect the same thing, you know.
It's interesting because, like, you know, from an outsider's point of view, people consider Las Vegas like, you know, the grand stage.
Yeah.
It's kind of the mecca now. And so, like, when you're competing there, a lot of people think of it, you know, from an outside perspective, which is like, oh, you've made it. The lights must get to you. But to you, it's not very different than Staples Center or Barclay or anywhere else.
No, that's how I used to think before I even turned pro. Like, man, how is it when I go into the lockers or when I come out to fight, or, you know, how is it going to be? But as soon as it happened, as soon as I experienced it, I was like, oh, it's nothing. I thought it was more of a hype to it, but it's not. You know, it's just the lockers that change.
Is the crew coming out to Vegas? You guys going to roll deep out there?
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, you know what's
up?
crazy, right? Is what's crazy is like when fighters like Gallo Gomez and fighters, some of these young fighters go out there and fight at Staples Center, or they fight at the T-Mobile Arena or some of these big venues, right? A lot of times their fights they're early. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So the venue is completely empty. Right? So they're fighting on a big stage because of the fight, but it's in our eyes that it's a big stage, right? But some of these fights in TJ, right? Like at some of these clubs, like El Rancho and some of these places in TJ, where the crowd is fucking packed in there, everybody's drunk, it's loud as hell, and if you're a Mexican American fighting a TJ kid, dude, it's fucking crazy in there, man. Those types of fights are the ones that are those are the ones that are wild.
Yeah.
And I've sat there and at ringside, and you see kids from the U.S. go in there to fight some of these guys from TJ, and it's just like they're fucking booing, and
it's like the world's against you.
Yeah, the whole world's against them, man. Those are the crazy types of fights right there.
Does it feel different in the big arenas at all, or is it just at that time you're focused on?
I mean, it does feel like you said, like the lights and all that. But I mean, at that point, you're just focused. You're focused on the fight. You don't care about the lights. I mean, you don't really pay attention to the fans. You're there to do your job, you know, because that's what you're doing. You're at work. You know, you're on the clock.
I think that's the thing that's interesting about going to these fights early. You know, the way that like Stax or I would, you hit it at 3 o'clock, and because the venue's not full yet, I imagine that you can hear all the stuff that people are yelling. You know what I mean? Like when it's full, it's all just like this mass of everything. But when it's
you actually get blocked off. Like
your
mind just blocks everything off. Like if anything, you hear your coach in the corner, and that's about it.
That's probably a good habit to have.
Yeah.
There's always some obnoxious guy who gets there at 3 o'clock, and you're like, man, how are you drunk already? You know what I mean? Like the event just started. How are you drunk already, yelling obscenities at the kids who are out there? That's normally Stax, by the way. No. Oh, man. What do we got else, Stax? KSI and Logan Paul?
No, I don't even want to talk about that.
Oh, man. Here's a question.
I can just see now, man, at that fight, like somebody, like some real boxing fan getting into it with one of their fans, and then like 20 kids fucking rolling up on skateboards and just beating the shit out of somebody. You know, I'm cool with that.
I was gonna ask, you're a young man. You're probably with it. You know, it takes me a long time to adapt to like Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. Do you know who KSI and Logan Paul are?
No.
Okay, I feel better because I don't know who they are either. Do you know who they are?
They're YouTubers.
They're YouTubers?
I believe so,
I
yeah.
feel like I should know that.
I might probably have seen them with my little cousins that they be watching.
Yeah,
Is
they
it
do
those?
all the like YouTube.
do like
stuff.
What do they YouTube though? Like what do they? What kind of content do they? If you guys on the chat know what KSI and Logan Paul's, and this is not, I do not intend to be. If more than anything, I'm probably just showing my age in not knowing who these like modern day, because they have a huge following.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like you look at it, and that fight is going to do better than a lot of professional boxing contests, including some of the ones that took place yesterday. So I'm not hating on them at all. And in fact, boxing needs casual fans. I'm all for anything that brings fans to the sport. There's going to be some good fans on that, or good boxers on that card. Billy Joe Saunders is going to be on that card. On the undercard, Devin Haney is going to be on that card. So there are some good matches. I'm going to watch some of that stuff. I just don't know who those cats are. If you guys know who they are, let me know. Share the link. I'll check out their YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe mine too while you're at it.
Right.
Promoting someone else instead of yours.
Hey, Sean, isn't this weekend the fight between Anui and
World Boxing Super Series, man. Nonito Donaire.
I think Nonito Donaire is going to get retired.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be. I feel bad. I like Donaire. Donaire's a real good. He's a good guy, but I just don't see anybody beating the monster right now. Not at that weight. Not even Luis Neri.
Check it out. Nonito Donaire came up through the system here since he was a young professional and things like that in Southern California. I've seen him fight live many, many times in his career. I have an appreciation for everything he's accomplished in the sport. If you just look at the road he took to get to the final of the World Boxing Super Series, it's kind of, I don't want to call it an accident, but like, look, he had one of his opponents in a fight that he was losing kind of throw his back out halfway through the fight. He then had to take a replacement opponent in the next round on like 1 day's notice or 2 days' notice, and he starched that guy, right? He made it to the final, not the way you're intended to make it to the final of the World Boxing Super Series, which is like beating the best individuals in that division. And I think that what we'll see is that there really is, at this point in his career, a difference in levels between where Donaire is at and where the monster is at right now. And that's not to discredit Donaire. It's just to say that I think things they worked out favorably for Donaire so far. But if he's in there against a healthy Inoue, that's a very, very different story than the path he carved to this opportunity. So that's all I'll say. And that's not to discredit anything that Nonito Donaire has done. Again, I'm a fan. So, that's a very long way of saying I agree with you guys, just in a much nicer way than you were saying. No, I'm just. Oh man. But I think that's what's coming up this week. And then, of course, I do want to give an opportunity for you to shout out where your fight's at, shout out your gym. Where can we follow you? Make sure that you give us all your plugs. Where can we get you on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever people are on these days? I'm behind the times with it, unfortunately. But so fight dates.
Fight the November 23rd in MGM in Las Vegas. And it will be a Wilder card and Leo Santa Cruz as well. And you guys can follow me on my Instagram at Gallo Gomez 90 and my Facebook, Jose Gomez.
Facebook, Jose Gomez. Lewis, where should we follow you, man?
At El Mejia Photography on Instagram, OD Wheelman at Twitter, Luis Mejia at Facebook.
Luis Mejia at Facebook.
Combat Sports Collective.
And of course, man, you almost left it out. You guys got the shirts on and everything.
Right.
I was hoping that you wouldn't say it, though, because I have an opportunity to go through and do this. Combat Sports Collective is a full-scale fighter support system providing fighter resources like strength and conditioning, photography, apparel, and soon-to-be supplements and recovery. That's Combat Sports Collective, logo of champions. Follow Combat Sports Collective on Instagram, also an official sponsor of Just Boxing Live. Stax, where can we follow you at?
Hey, is there a website, Lewis, for the Combat Sports Collective?
Right now I'm currently working on that one because I had it, but then right now I got to change it up because I'm looking into an investor, so I have to change some things up. But it was at combatsportscollective.com.
Is that what it will be?
Okay, you
still have the domain?
Yeah, I bought the domain.
Combatsportscollective.com. Coming up.
All right. And then you can follow me on Supreme Boxing on all the social media channels, Supreme Boxing, boxinginc.com on our website, and also be sure to follow the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame as well. So until next week.
Awesome. And you can follow me at Just Boxing Live on Instagram, at Just Boxing Live on Facebook for all the updates related to Just Boxing Live and the Just Boxing Foundation. I want to extend a sincere thanks to Luis Mejia, my guest Jose Gomez. Make sure to check him out, his fight on the Deontay Wilder undercard as with Leo Santa Cruz as well. You're in good company in the Mecca of boxing, Las Vegas, Nevada. Good luck with your fight, my friend. Thanks for coming down. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this is the weird moment where the producer's not here today, so I have to go get up and push the button myself. Peace.
You forgot to put the Flintstone little...